The Zara-class was an Italian heavy cruiser design of the Regia Marina from the early 1930s. 4 ships of the class were completed: Zara, Fiume, Pola and Gorizia, all of which saw extensive service during the war. Design: the Zaras were essentially an improved Trento class tasked with dealing with the latest French designs. The Trentos had been designed to the limitations of the Washington Naval Treaty, which stated that cruisers had to be 10,000 tons or less, and armed with 8-inch guns or smaller. The weight limitation made it impossible to design a ship with those guns and armor able to stop shells of the same caliber. A typical Washington design had 76 mm in its armor belt, and less on other areas of the ship. These thicknesses were reasonably good against destroyer and light cruiser weapons guns, but insufficient against the 120 kg shells that 203 mm guns fired, capable of piercing even 150 mm of armor at medium range. In general, in order to be effective, armor should be roughly the same thickness as the diameter of the shells fired against it. Trentos had sacrificed armor for speed, allowing them to make high-speed dashes up and down the long Italian coastline, which would otherwise be difficult to defend from Italy's widely separated naval bases. Although equipped with powerful armament, hits against them would likely penetrate the armor and knock the ships out of combat. Even a one battle might seriously deplete Italian naval strength, something they were not prepared to address through sheer numbers. The solution was a new design, one combining the armament of the Trentos with the armor needed to protect them from similar French designs. To achieve this, the Zaras were almost 2,000 t over the 10,000-ton limit. Even if fully loaded, they displaced no more than, for example, British heavy cruisers. Extras such as a high superstructure and torpedo tubes were removed in an effort to save weight, but in the end the ships ended up considerably overweight anyway. Armor: the Zaras more than doubled belt armor compared to the Trentos, with 150 mm in the main belt. The main deck was also very thick, 70 mm. Turrets and barbets were as well protected by 150 mm armor. In addition to the primary armor scheme, there was secondary armor. The upper deck was 20 mm, and the flank hull above main belt was 30 mm. Almost no other cruisers were equipped with 2 armored decks and 2 armored belts. This scheme followed, in fact, not quite a cruiser layout, but that of a small battleship. This made the Zaras the best armored cruisers until the introduction of the Des Moines class by the United States. This additional armor would have made the ships decidedly nose-heavy, so to offset this the rear of the ship was raised by 1 deck behind the front funnel. The result was excellent watertight integrity and protection. Armament: the Zaras shared the main armament with the last of the 3 Trentos, Bolzano. They were equipped with the 203 mm L-53 guns of 25 tons each and were fitted in pairs in all the turrets. The guns had a high muzzle velocity of 939 meters per second with a 125 kilograms AP shell, allowing Zaras to engage equals at a very long 34,400 yards at 45 elevation. Trento and Trieste had a less advanced model, firing a 110 kilograms to 29,000 meters. The downside to the new gun was a greater dispersion of shots and barrel wear than normal. The secondary armament was superior as well, compared to the standard of those times. 16 Skoda Model 1910 100 mm L-50 guns were fitted in 8 dual turrets, 4 on each side, again following a scheme similar to a small battleship. Later, these were replaced by OTOL 47s, plus 2 single 100mm Mans for flare illumination rounds. In 1937, the aft 100mm Mans were replaced by 37mm 54 caliber Bredis, more useful for close defense, and in 1940, the 40mm Vickers were replaced by 37mm Bredis also. All these guns were reasonably modern, especially at the time. One odd feature was the aircraft catapult on the bow, which made it impossible to prepare for launch while firing, perhaps a minor consideration. The Piaggio P6 bis originally carried was later replaced by M41s, and 25ARs, MF6s, and in 1938, by Ro. 43s. Service history. Zara was laid down at OTO's Miguiano shipyard the 4th of July 1929, launched the 27th of April 1930, and commissioned the 21st of October 1931. She was joined by Fiume, laid down at Stabilimento Tecnico Triestino on the 29th of April 1929, launched the 27th of April 1930, and completed the 23rd of November 1931. Pola at OTO's Livorno shipyard, laid the 17th of March 1931, launched the 5th of December 1931, and completed the 21st of December 1931, and Gorizia, launched the 28th of December 1930 at OTO Livorno. When the Second World War broke out, Gorizia, Zara, and Fiume were organized into First Cruiser Division, Pola serving as flagship for Second Cruiser Division. In the course of the Battle of Cape Spartivento on the 27th of November 1940, the Zaras were the first Italian units to open up, and the British heavy cruiser HMS Berwick was hit twice by 8-inch shells on her aft turrets. The first hit was scored either by Pola or Fiume, still pending repairs. Additional damage in the course of a battle with the German cruiser Admiral Hipper in the Atlantic on Christmas Day put Berwick out of action for 6 months. However, the Zaras were eventually taken to task during the Battle of Cape Matapan, after Pola was hit by a torpedo from a TSR Swordfish from the aircraft carrier HMS Formidable, which stopped her. The rest of the 1st Division ran in to protect her. 3 Royal Navy battleships, plus many supporting units, were able to approach them closely at night, the lack of radar on the Zaras making them unaware of their approach. The Valiant scored with her first salvo. The British battleships quickly sank all 3 Italian cruisers and 2 of their escorting destroyers in a one-sided gunfight, the only reaction from the cruisers being the aimless fire of a 40mm anti-aircraft cannon from the already wrecked Zara. Gorizia survived until she was taken over by the Germans after Italy left the war in 1943. In that year, her armor had the only opportunity to display its effectiveness when this ship was hit by 3 bombs, launched by American bombers, but the main deck resisted them all and the ship continued to fire against the high-flying bombers. Later she was able to reach La Spezia, but the damage to the midship was heavy, with almost all the structures over the armor belt devastated and a 100mm turret thrown into the sea. Ironically, at the beginning of 1941, a modest British attack at night over Naples hit Zara. There were only 2 113 kg bombs, launched at low altitude, but they pierced the hull and almost sank the ship. Gorizia was sunk the 26th of June 1944 at her moorings in La Spezia, in yet another twist of fate by Italian manned torpedoes, after the Italians joined the Allies.